Hey everybody, what's going on? I am Gregg Sussman, joined today by Jim Sadas of FanDuel, who's here to break down the late round quarterbacks that you should be targeting in your fantasy football drafts. What's going on, Jim?
I'm all good, Greg, because when you look at this list, there are some pretty fun and big names available late in drafts. And honestly, we could have gone six deep with quarterbacks to target late because there are so many good late round options. I love me Dak Prescott and Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson and guys like that in the middle rounds, but when you have players like this who may not have the same upside as Dak Prescott and Kyler Murray, but still have a path to a really good year, it's kind of hard not to wait. So I think this is a really fun year to talk about some late round quarterbacks for sure.
Looking at the list that we're going to go over today, one quarterback on the list everybody's talking about. Another quarterback, I was kind of stumbling around looking at stats about, and I'm like, why are not enough people talking about him? And then the first quarterback we're going to talk about, it was the most obvious name you were ever going to send me. And that is Jared Goff. There was no way we were going to do a late round quarterback FanDuel hurry up without going in a deep dive about Jared Goff. His ADP is 140. Mr. Goff Truther, spit your gospel.
Truther, agent, whatever you want to call me for Jared Goff, I will happily take up that mantle. And especially when he's going so late in drafts, it's hard not to be on board with Jared Goff. I know that I've been irrational in my adoration of Goff in the past, but I think here it makes a lot of sense because it's just he's going so late in drafts. If you want to have upside as a quarterback in fantasy, you either need to run, which we'll talk about with Cam Newton later on, or you need to combine volume with efficiency. And I think that Goff could potentially do that this year because last year was a really weird season. There were 7 times where Jared Goff completed a pass where the receiver was taken down at the 1-yard line. That is according to Rich Rebar of Sharp Football, which means that his touchdowns will regress. You look at his touchdown rate where it was at last year compared to where it was at the previous 2 years, it went way down. You expect that to normalize in the future. So we should expect touchdown regression for Jared Goff this year. I also expect a ton of volume out of this passing offense because that defense lost a lot of key contributors last year. Yeah, they had Jalen Ramsey for the full year, but they lost 5 guys who were major factors on defense. That's a lot to replace. They're probably going to have to score a lot of points, and we know the Rams are willing to throw a lot and willing to operate at a fast pace. So if we're making a betting board here, Jared Goff, I think, needs to be the favorite to lead the league in pass attempts. And if his efficiency rebounds even just a bit from where it was last year, he'll be a top 10 quarterback pretty easily. If he gets back to efficiency levels that he had in 2017 or 2018, he could be a top 5 quarterback with not all that much effort. So I think that Jared Goff going as quarterback 16 right now, that more than accounts for the uncertainty around the offensive line and the changeover with Brandon Cooks being gone. I think that's enough to help compensate. So Jared Goff, with the cost being down and with the efficiency or the regression potentially coming, I think now's a great time to get Jared Goff in your rosters as always.
That's what I was going to say. Now is a good time to get him on your rosters. Not always, but it's the truth. Jared Goff and this cast with the Rams, it is totally different, right? There is no Brandon Cooks. There is no Todd Gurley. The offensive line has gotten older and they've had to replace some parts. But Sean McVay's creative genius hasn't gone anywhere. And I think you're going to see players step up. We saw them change the offense midway through last year with Tyler Higbee really becoming a huge, huge part of it. And I think Jared Goff, in the games that he is not so good, he looks really bad. But then there's those games where he has those 400 yards and the 4 touchdowns, and you're like, all right, that's the guy I want to start in fantasy football. When you're drafting him as quarterback 16, there's no risk because you could drop him at any point. You could draft 2 quarterbacks and start him only in the good matchups. It costs you nothing at pick 140. One quarterback that you may want to pair with Jared Goff potentially, ideally when he's at home, that's Ben Roethlisberger. He's going exactly the same spot here as Jared Goff. And I felt like not enough people are talking about Big Ben this upcoming season. I know that his contemporaries have all moved on or gone away, right? Eli Manning's retired. Philip Rivers is in Indianapolis. But Ben Roethlisberger is still the starting quarterback with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And last time we saw him healthy in a full season, well, he was really good. He was the Big Ben that we always have come to expect. Now, this year, I think we're going to see one of 2 Big Bens, right? The one that kind of steps right back into that starting role, utilizing Juju Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson and passing it off to James Conner, and the Ben that we're used to dominating. Or he could fall off the cliff like his contemporaries did. Which Big Ben do you expect to see this year?
I honestly have no idea, but I think it goes back to something that you said, Greg, where even if Ben Roethlisberger is not the Big Ben that we saw back in the past, we can cut bait. Because he's going so late in drafts that the opportunity cost of using Big Ben is not that high. So I think that it makes a lot of sense to take that risk and use him here because he could very well belong in the same bucket as Jared Goff, where he could combine efficiency with volume. Now, we haven't seen Big Ben in a full season with no Antonio Brown in quite some time. So maybe you're concerned about that. And that's a justifiable concern because Antonio Brown, the wide receiver, can help elevate an offense. But it's not as if the Steelers have ignored that position. They have taken Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, James Washington, all within the first 3 rounds over the past 4 years. That is in addition to signing Eric Ebron, who I think is still a guy who can make a difference with the passing offense there. So they've got receivers there despite not having Antonio Brown. When you have a good situation around you, that is a situation where a quarterback can do well in fantasy because you expect quarterbacks, regardless of their talent, to do well in good situations. And I think that Big Ben has that situation, just a question whether or not the talent is still right there. So good pieces around him. They've shown a willingness to be super pass heavy when Ben Roethlisberger is healthy. And if the elbow is not right, like I said, you can just dump him and replace him. He's quarterback 17 right now on the draft board. I think that's enough to offset the risk around him, and we can still get the upside here. So both Goff and Roethlisberger, two key guys to target who could combine volume with efficiency.
I think when you're in this range, not that I want to schedule a hunt so early, but when you're drafting quarterbacks 16 and 17, I'm looking at matchups early in the year. And I know in week 1, Ben Roethlisberger faces the New York Giants' pathetic defense at home on Monday Night Football. What is wrong with starting Ben Roethlisberger in week 1? There's nothing. So take that for whatever it's worth. One last quarterback to chat about, and this is the one that I think is gaining a lot of momentum in fantasy circles, and that brings us to Cam Newton. He's 148, going at pick 148, 149-ish at the moment. And I drafted Cam Newton last year for all the reasons you're going to tell us to draft Cam Newton this year, right? Because he could utilize his legs. Whenever he plays a full season, he's a top 5 quarterback. He's going to fall into the end zone, and you can get him for nothing. Did I miss anything?
Nope. That's it. We can wrap up the analysis there. I think we're all set. You checked all the boxes there, Greg, but I think that Cam Newton, like you said, the upside is definitely there. Whereas Roethlisberger and Goff were more guys who are going to have the volume and efficiency, Cam Newton can definitely have the rushing. And I think that's still going to be something within his repertoire, despite the fact that he's had all of these injuries. It seems like he's fully healthy. We've seen all the workout videos. There have been no negative reports from camp from an injury perspective. So it seems like we've got the regular Cam Newton back. And it's easy to forget how good of a fantasy player the regular Cam Newton was. And he was tremendous. Like you said, he's basically a top 5 quarterback every time he is fully healthy. He's going to the Patriots. We know that Josh McDaniels can cook up really good schemes and utilize the best assets of his offense. Like Tim Tebow was a fantasy relevant player playing under Josh McDaniels, and Cam Newton is years beyond Tim Tebow from a talent perspective. So we get Cam, hopefully with rushing, but even if not, I think there's still a chance he could be a really fantasy relevant quarterback. I definitely do like that. He's a quarterback 18 right now. I think that is a result of the potential ambiguity around the situation in camp for the quarterbacks for the Patriots. People may be uncertain about whether Cam will be the starting quarterback there, but all the reports around Jarrett Stidham are not so great, Bob. And I think that definitely increases the odds that Cam gets that job, which we should have expected from the outset. So Cam, I think, is pretty likely to be the quarterback for the Patriots. If things skew a different way, again, just cut bait and go elsewhere at quarterback, because the risk here with Cam Newton is mitigated by where he's going in drafts. So Cam, the upside still there. We haven't seen it in a while, but I think it is still there, and the risk is low. So I would say this is a good time, like you said, to dive on in and get Cam Newton back into your fantasy life.
The biggest thing here is there is no downside to drafting Cam Newton, because if he stinks in week 1 or week 2, you can just cut bait at that moment and go in a different direction. If he's not falling in the end zone, they're handing it off to Rex Burkhead and you're getting enraged because you own Damian Harris. I get it. But that's okay. Cam Newton, you can hold on to if he's getting into the end zone, if he's being the Cam of old, or if you just feel like he's missing a step, then you can cut bait. That's the point when you're drafting a quarterback at QB 18, which is where Newton is going right now. Jim Sonis, we appreciate the time. Good luck in your drafts this weekend.
Thank you. Same to you, Greg. Hopefully you get one of these 3 guys, or honestly, like Joe Burrow. There are a lot of other options too. So you've got options late. Hopefully one of them falls into your lap and we can celebrate on Monday.
My big auction draft actually is on Sunday. Danny Dimes is the target. I know you're excited about that, Jim, so we will certainly discuss it on Monday. For Jim Sannes, I am Gregg Sussman. Cannot wait to talk more fantasy football. Have an awesome weekend. Good luck in your drafts, and we'll do it all again next time right here on the FanDuel Hurry Up.